Hi, welcome to another web clip from Divination Counseling Service. I'm Colleen Schmidt, and welcome to all of you. Today I'm going to continue my conversation of astrology. The subject matter today was actually the result of a revelation that I had when I was doing my own research on astrology, tarot cards, and psychics on YouTube. It's one of my favorite ways to entertain myself. I've said that before. And I had a revelation because I'm a teacher and I've spent a lot of time recently talking a lot about Pluto Saturn and that conjunction and what it's going to mean to us because it's a great teaching point because it's an Aries point. Everybody in the world is going to have some kind of reaction from it. And the other factor is it is the Pluto return for the United States. And so every time I hear a candidate talk about how we're fighting for the soul of the country, I don't think people realize how literal that is because it is our Pluto return and it does fall in our second house. And we are going to reevaluate what things mean to us, what we value. And I've spent a lot of time doing that, but I haven't talked a lot about some of these smaller, shorter term aspects that are going to be leading up to that ultimate culmination that happens January 12th when Pluto and Saturn make that big hit. So we have all these other aspects going on that will help us define what that will be and what it might mean for us as regular people. So I'm going to look at today the Sun-Mars conjunction opposite Neptune. And that is featured in the August 30th new moon chart. But it's also relevant because what it represents and the fact that the moon would then be joining up with Neptune this Saturday for the full moon. So it's a wonderful way to learn about astrology aspects, and we can kind of witness and we have some example of what's going out there in the public. So let's look at this. Okay, so we have the Sun and the Mars, and that's aggressive, angry, irritable, overzealous sometimes energy. And it can be somebody who's very, very forceful. It can make us in general more competitive and more forceful. Now, sometimes we can use this energy in a really good way. And we can say, we have a little bit more energy and do something constructive with it, like work around the house, maybe work in your yard, get your yard ready for the next season. That would be a really good way of using that energy. Those people who have mental jobs and do mental work for a living will note that this might be a time of a lot of anxiety. That's normal. There's a lot of restlessness that comes with this conjunction. And fortunately, these are not long-term features. These are just things that are going to catch our attention this month. So we have that, and both of these, this wild energy, if you will. What a great way to look at it. Because, the sun is our drive, it's our health, it's our well-being, it's our days. And, our days tend to be a little frazzed, a little hectic, and then you're, maybe looking at that Mars energy, and that can make us a little stressed and a little restless and a little angry, and that's not good. So we have to be careful of that. Then those points are in opposition to Neptune. The planet that lacks clarity. So there's, we don't really know what's going on. And yet we're behaving or reacting in such a way. You have to be very careful. This is a time when you can be very reactive and not have all the information. So you want to try to take it slow where you can. You have to realize that the idea of deception, illusion, disillusion are all applicable to Neptune. It has good qualities. I'll get there in a minute. But if you think about that with anger, whoa. Are you angry because somebody wasn't completely honest with you? There's a good question. That would be astrology in action right now. So what I wanted to present here is a kind of a broad stroke picture of the many ways in which this energy can be used. I also want to apply 3 asteroids because I'm an asteroid astrologer. I want us to get engaged in those little rocks because they add such a dimension to this picture, and you'll see that in a moment. So let's look at the positive side. Well, the positive side of Sun Mars is you have a lot more energy. It's like energy that's not well thought out though, but energy. So if you're doing something kind of mindless, that's good. If you're an athlete training, that's good. Get out there, play some games. Be physical, get yourself moving. The positive on the Neptune we've seen a little bit of, and that's where I'm going to introduce our first asteroid, Asteria. Asteria is prayer and meditation. It's spirit. It's being more spiritual. Neptune has a spiritual side to it. Sun opposite Neptune, you're probably dealing with a lot of people who are not very spiritual. But the reality is that we can, within our own sphere, honor those attributes that are also a part of Neptune. So sending thoughts and prayers to the storm-ridden people that just suffered through Dorian, the Bohemians who lost everything. Yes, this is a wonderful time to pray for a recent water disaster, Asteria to Neptune. It's also a time of compassion and sympathy, and we could use it well if we apply it to those who really deserve it. So that really helped us bring in and introduce our first asteroid. Our next asteroid is Hebe, and Hebe would be like service people and people who work in the service industry. And here, I actually know of good stories because if somebody, here's a good one, because there's positive in everything, and I want us to understand that. I think that sometimes that's the hard part, is to look for the good, but it's there. And here's one. So we're talking about Hebe, which is the people that's like bartenders, waitresses, people who are in service. It's also about helpers and enabling, and I'll get to that. But for right now, for my little story, we only need to know that it's service people. And Neptune is also associated with film and even things on the internet. Very Neptune, you know, what's out there is Neptune because it's unknown to us. And, you know, we are sometimes getting this nebulous information, not even knowing what it's connected to. And, you know, that's Neptune. You know, Neptune requires a lot of faith, literally. But Neptune is also deception because we are vulnerable, and we all know there's a lot of deception on the internet. But anyway, getting back to my story, I know somebody who's in the business of service who is now expanding their position through Neptune photography. So again, there's a lot of ways in which we can utilize the information. So again, I want to present it with as broad a stroke as possible so that you can play with this. I also want to be able to show you and cite for you examples, and I will. So Hebe is also enabling. And I'm going to use an enabling story next because we all know it. It happened in public. Our president had made a mistake. But instead of owning that mistake, because he very much depicts the Sun, Mars equals Neptune. He really does in many things, in many ways. You know, he has a real hard time with the truth. Well, there's a Sun Neptune if there ever was one. But in any event, you have a situation where the weather service is of service, Noah, to us, the people, Hebe. And they were told recently that they had no choice to back the president, which brings in my third asteroid, Adamite. What a great way to go to astrology. Adamite is being stuck, delayed, no way out. Yeah, they were forced to comply with this Sun Mars, this man who didn't, Sun Mars equals Neptune, he didn't want anyone to know the real truth. He just made a mistake, for God's sake. but instead he asked somebody to enable his bad behavior by backing him up. How perfect is that for astrology? Ah, this is why I'm an astrologer. So Adamite is also playing in here, and it is remaining firm, which is what our president did, even though it was a deception, a self-deception. We all know the truth. It was crazy. But a lot of times the sun, Neptune, does equal crazy. And with Hebe, you're expected to enable that crazy. So be wary, because even though we have these things going on in public, we also have minor and lesser degree of these things happening in our personal life. So with that said, I hope that this was somewhat informative and that you have a greater understanding that what's coming up is probably going to have a lot to do with discovery. Because once that moon does hit that Pisces Neptune, the truth is going to fall out of it. It's going to come out of it. And I can give us examples already, though we're not even there yet. So imagine, these are just the tip of the iceberg, which would be, again, the Taliban incident. Fortunately, that didn't happen. And the weather thing, which I just spoke about. So when I say to you that this is a time of discovery, yes, we have been deceived. We're being deceived probably all the time when it comes to our, unfortunately, those people that we call our leaders. But the reality is that we have an opportunity now to discover these things, to be enlightened, if you will, and to have the wool pulled off, ripped off of the scenario. And I think this is the beginning of a lot of discovery. I don't think it's going to be just about the Taliban or John Bolton leaving, or, well, maybe I think there's a lot more about that. So I think that what we're here, again, remember, this is astrology. We are living astrology. And, you know, we don't want to judge it, okay? This is not about judgment. This is not about expectation. It's just about learning and researching and understanding how energies can and will manifest. But if you have done some deceptive things recently or even in the past, this might be a scary time for you, because this could be the beginning of anyone's undoing in that respect. And that goes for self-deception as well, which I really want to highlight here. I think that if I want to leave you with anything, please be aware that, and again, we don't know if that's not the problem with our president, but I think there's a lot of self-deception that goes on in life. I see it in my own clientele. I can tell you that in my own clientele, I can see the manifestation of this planetary configuration, that it's time for us to deal with reality, no matter how much we have deluded ourselves. And on that note, I'm going to let you go. I thank you so much for listening and being here with me today, and hopefully you gained something from the experience. If you have any questions about astrology or tarot, or if you would like a private reading with me, please contact me through divinationcounselingservice.org. Divination is a long word, but it sounds and spells the same way. So it spells exactly as it sounds. Take care and happy readings.